Hey there, fellowship. Welcome to this week's episode. Before we get going, have you heard about Anchor by Spotify? Well, if you have an idea for a podcast and an audience that you think will listen, Anchor by Spotify is the right choice. You can record, you can edit, and you can distribute your podcast to all the major platforms all on your phone or your computer. Everything you need in one place. The Anchor app or Anchor.fm. So go to those places right now. Record your voice. We want to hear it. And welcome to this episode of the Pretty Neat Podcast. It's time for the Pretty Neat Podcast. If they had to listen to it, I just made them listen to all of it right now. And they being the listeners of the Pretty Neat Podcast, which is this show, the one you're listening to, the one I'm on right now. My name's Aaron, and Ryan's with me. How are you, Ryan?
I'm delightful.
That's fucking great.
Delightful.
Dom, how are you?
Yeah.
I'm good. I am good.
That's excellent.
We need to open a podcast-themed restaurant that serves sandwiches.
Yeah.
Right? Not a sandwich restaurant, a podcast-themed restaurant. We just happen to serve club sandwiches and sub sandwiches.
I love that. And you could mic it up, and mic up the booths.
Yeah.
People could share their reviews, their
could.
thoughts.
Yeah. Everybody that comes in consents to having all of their conversations taped that we can then distribute on the podcast.
Well, it is podcast themed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that would be even funnier if it was just random people and their conversation. And that was every episode. Episode 1024 is the customers sitting at table 23 on March 5th night.
It would just be the table number and then what they ordered. And then you just have no idea what they're going to talk about.
Oh, that's great. Oh, that's a great idea. I'm going to run that by all of my billionaire friends.
We need some startup capital for a sandwich shop, but hear me out.
But it's not really a sandwich shop, and that's the podcast. It's a podcast restaurant.
It's a podcast where you eat clubs and subs.
I was thinking about that on Saturday night while I was watching the fights, and I was trying to come up with what would the club and sub, you'd think it's sandwiches, but it's not sandwiches, it's podcasts, or it's I don't know, a bakery or something that also has good sandwiches. Maybe not a bakery, but you know what I mean.
I love that.
It's almost like if we were to do an alternative version of this podcast and we called it club and sub while we talk about the fights while eating a sub or club sandwich, and we would have to start the podcast off with what type of sandwich we brought for discussion.
So 2 questions on that front. If given the choice between a club or sub sandwich, which one are you choosing?
Club.
Okay. Second, what was the rest of what you said?
We would have to basically talk about the sandwich that we chose to bring or eat. And then we would discuss the most relevant fighting topics.
See, I had a second question to build on the club or sub, and that train just flew out of the station in my head. So
bye-bye.
There was another sports game ending, right? Champion game of the
champion
cup?
Game.
What's
champion game? A champion game.
Who won
ball.
the most points? What happened? I bet on the Chiefs. Did I win?
You won.
Fuck yeah, that's awesome.
You won.
How was the game?
Well, I don't know how Dom feels, but I'm slightly disappointed that really the game hinged on a penalty.
Okay. Do you not think it was a penalty?
No, I'm not disputing the fact that it was a penalty.
Okay.
Just the fact that at that time in the game, or I should say with that little time left in the game, where that would have likely allowed for the opposing team, which would have been the Eagles, to possess the football, to then drive and likely be the last possession of the game prior to overtime. And it could have led to overtime, that it ended up being an automatic first down, and then the Chiefs could essentially just run the clock out, which is what they did, and then kicked a very short field goal to win the game. I mean, again, not disputing the fact that it was a penalty upon replay, but if I had to choose how the game would end, I would want it to end on a spectacular play,
an 80-yard punt return.
Hey, I mean, there was almost a punt return for a touchdown in the game.
Yep. That's pretty wild.
That's never happened.
And the Chiefs almost had 2 defensive touchdowns.
No shit.
By the same guy, coincidentally enough.
Yeah. That was the only piece of the game I caught, was when there was about 10 minutes left of the fourth quarter, and it was that punt return.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who they traded for at the
Tyreek
deadline?
Hill? No.
Yeah. Tony from the Giants.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Who
also caught a big touchdown.
He did on a very nice. I'm not going to call it a trick play, but it was not
deception.
A trick play. Yep. There was some deception there. It was good. I mean, the Chiefs they won the game. They played amazingly well in the second half. They couldn't be stopped.
Was it Mahomes?
Yep, Mahomie, who was at Disneyland today.
Yes, he was.
Yeah,
that makes sense. It's Monday. It's the day after the Super Bowl.
Yep, and they went to Disneyland. And from what I understand, my wife, who's good friends with somebody she used to work with at Stone, who goes all the time, said it was a fucking madhouse at Disneyland.
Yeah, that makes sense. I bet a lot of people go because of the whole Super Bowl thing. Because I can recall back when we used to go to Disney regularly, that was like a common thing on the Instagram.
Several of the Rams were there last year. It's typically a thing they do.
Yeah, well, I wonder if they thought Mickey's Runaway Railway was the second best ride.
I doubt he wrote it. You got to wonder how long Patrick was even there.
Yeah, right? It must be hard.
I don't know. There were pictures last year of Matt Stafford with his whole family like on the carousel, and Stafford was drunk as fuck.
Think Disney pays them?
No.
I don't know. Actually, I don't know.
Think the I'm going to Disneyland thing just was all luck and it just turned into a thing now, or I think Disney would be involved.
It seems like there's some promotional aspect of it, would be my thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hold for 1 second. I'll return.
Yeah.
So who was the first? That would be interesting. Aaron, who's the first person to say that they won the Super Bowl and I'm going to Disneyland?
Dan Marino.
Dan Marino?
I'm just kidding.
Laces out, Dan.
Yeah.
You know that Dan Marino never won a Super Bowl?
Yeah, I did.
Which is funny. Let's see. First person to say I'm going to Disneyland.
Ray Lewis. Super Bowl 35 MVP. But because of a murder trial involved.
What? Who was the first player to say? Phil Simms, first out of the phrase after leading his team to victory against the Denver Broncos, has become an expected part of the game. Few realized that Simms was paid $75,000 to shout it out after the game.
So it was never something that turned into a thing. It was always a publicity stunt.
Well, I mean, at least the first time, and that was 36 years ago. Imagine that. He got paid $36,000 36 years ago to say that he was going to Disneyland.
Yeah. That's fucking wild. Huh. Well, now we know.
Yeah, that's it. That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, then while Dom while he's out, I'm gonna hit the recap. Ryan, I really enjoyed UFC 284.
I really enjoyed it as well. I mean,
Exciting.
A lot of intrigue there. Yeah, exciting.
A lot.
Ups and downs.
Yeah. First fight of the night. First fight of the night was a surprise victory for Brenner, who won on the scorecards, and he was the biggest underdog of the night. Kind of set everything in motion.
And obviously that was on the broadcast was very widely and publicly disputed that they did not think that Elvis Brenner, who, fun fact, if you're watching that fight, did you notice that his fight gear all had Oliveira on it?
He looked like him too.
Is that true?
And
that
it
is
looks
100% true.
Even in this picture, it says Oliveira.
So they're in the same camp, obviously, and that may be something that they do in that camp where they bleach their hair blonde for it. But at the conclusion of the fight, when they were announcing the scorecards, I noticed something, and I thought I was maybe just mistaken. But multiple times when Elvis Brenner had his back to the camera on his fight kit, it was the last name Oliveira on it. And I was like, I don't think his name is Oliveira. However,
yeah,
I do believe that he was not a super last minute replacement, but I would assume he was maybe a little bit rushed. However, but for him to be wearing what I would assume to be Charles Oliveira's fight kit is wild.
Yeah, that is pretty wild.
Ryan, before we dive deeper, we got to talk about the NBA trades.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts? Aaron, the NBA is basketball. Basketball is a game where they bounce a ball and shoot it at a hoop.
Got it. Is that the one where there's a goalie and the air horn goes off?
Yes, and they hold the sticks with the nets where they catch the ball.
Got it. How do they get off the horses first?
The horses are on the sidelines.
Okay, got it.
There were multiple big trades at the trade deadline.
Yeah, there were.
Ryan, your thoughts?
Wild, right? To say the least. Kyrie basically demanding to be traded from the Nets, which basically was the start of the dominoes falling for the Nets to basically blow up their entire team.
Yep.
Durant on the Suns, like, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, but they seem like they will put up 120 on everyone consistently.
Man,
I don't know how they're going to play defense.
They paid through the nose for him.
Yes. Is it coincidental or not? You know, they had the new owner that took ownership that day.
100% not.
Right? And basically, okay, we're going to trade for Kevin Durant.
And we're going to give them everything they're asking for, even though we actually have all the leverage because he doesn't want to be there and they know it. Yeah, it's tough.
It's like 3 first-round picks, I believe.
4 and 2 swaps and 2 legitimate, really good young players.
Yeah, and what I didn't realize until recently, because when he came up in trade chatter, but Jay Crowder hadn't been playing for the team for all year, who's a great 3-and-D type of player, who they needed to trade, obviously. So getting him off the books, I guess, is a moral victory.
Yeah, and then I think Brooklyn flipped him to Milwaukee, right?
Yes. Yeah, so now he's on Milwaukee, who's already legitimately good, right? They could easily come out of the East in the playoffs, and they have another key rotational player that they can lean on. Luka and Kyrie, I don't know how I feel about that.
How do you feel about Kyrie and anyone?
I feel bad.
Yeah.
It makes me sad.
Oh, Texas is so happy, though. Texas
the problem, the thing is, he is as skilled as anybody on earth.
Yeah.
And he happens to think that earth is flat, and you don't know which version of him you're getting on any given day.
So do most people in Dallas.
Fair point.
Welcome home.
And truthfully, none of the 3 of us can prove it's not flat. So with apologies to Kyrie Irving.
How do you feel about the Lakers essentially, by most accounts, coming in second to trading for Kyrie?
I would rather have the four guys they got than just Kyrie.
Okay, that's fair.
And honestly, I am really impressed if you go back to the Rui Hachimura trade, who I really like. They basically flipped Russell Westbrook and one draft pick for an all-star level guy in D'Angelo Russell, two legit rotation pieces in Beasley and Jared Vanderbilt. They basically, Thomas Bryant and Patrick Beverley make way for Mo Bamba, who is probably more valuable than both of them. And then there's another guy, Devon something. I don't really have an opinion on him.
Devon Wynn? He left the UFC heavyweight division? He's only 5'6".
Vanderbilt lit up the Warriors on Saturday. So D'Angelo Russell, of course, was drafted by the Lakers second overall in like 2015. Yes. I love D'Angelo Russell. I've always been super high on him. I think he was an immature kid who was drafted into a shitty situation that was poorly run and managed. And actually, if you look at all four, so Russell, Ingram, Julius Randle, and Jordan Clarkson, all four of the guys that they drafted in that sort of rebuilding, all of them have been all-stars, and I believe now all of them have been to the playoffs since leaving the Lakers. So the Lakers were doing something right. They traded D'Angelo, people don't remember this, with Timofey Mozgov to Brooklyn because they had to get out from under Mozgov's contract because they, wink, wink, had an idea that LeBron might want to sign there when they gave Kentavious Caldwell-Pope $900 million for the agency that LeBron definitely doesn't own most of, right? We're just going to pretend. That's a deep cut for you, Aaron. So LeBron James definitely doesn't, but also completely does own the agency that represents him and many other players, which is against the league rules.
It anyway, just happens to be under somebody else's name.
And they happened to know that he was going to be coming there well before he actually, whatever. Anyway, I've always been very high on D'Angelo Russell. He brings a lot of what they needed. He has elite court vision, and so does LeBron. So having two of those guys on the court at the same time is good. And again, they flipped like a Russell Westbrook. He plays hard. He plays the right way, not strategically. He plays with effort. And like his stats would look okay. Damian Lillard is absolutely torching the Lakers right now. What else is new? But he just murdered possessions, just absolutely murdered possessions for them. So yeah, he might have 17 points and 9 rebounds and 11 assists, but you paid a lot for those stats. And so they were able to get out from under that contract, get out from under just the weight of having him. So I think I would much rather have that than just Kyrie. So.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's fair. And I appreciate what you said about, having 4 guys as opposed to one. One person can make the difference. I believe that was like the phrase in the most recent article about Kevin Durant. You're always one player away from winning an NBA championship. I just don't know if he was that player.
Kevin Durant?
No. Kyrie Irving.
Oh, yeah.
For the Lakers. I don't know if he was that player considering what they had in the rest of their roster, right? They're extremely top heavy with no real rotational depth.
Well, they have depth now.
They have depth now. But now they have to play with a lot of consistency. Injury concerns, right? I was mentioning to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if LeBron doesn't play on Wednesday when you watch the Lakers, which would suck. But then AD has always been somewhat of an injury concern throughout his entire career. So now you have to see, they have to get healthy, stay healthy, mesh, and continue to play and win so they can put themselves in a position for the play-in game for the playoffs.
Well, they're only like 5 games out of 4th place or something crazy like that.
Really?
Yeah, the West is super bunched up. They're not out of it by any stretch.
Okay, I mean, if that's the case, and I haven't looked at the standings recently, I just know that they're sitting 13th right now.
Yeah, so they are, hang on. They are 4 games out of 6th place. and 4.5 games out of fourth.
Yep, I see that. Yeah, a lot of parity.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You haven't seen that in a long time in the West.
Pretty much Denver and then everybody else in the West right now.
Yeah.
But they're also, well, no, they're 13 games ahead of the Spurs and the Rockets. So they're down by like 20 now at halftime against Portland, which is a game they'd like to have. But I am optimistic for the post All-Star break run that they can go on. And frankly, something about the trade that happened made me think maybe the NBA really would prefer to have LeBron and Anthony Davis in the playoffs, because I don't really understand why any of the other teams involved made those moves. So, for what that's worth.
It just seemed like this year, more than other years in recent memory, that teams decided we don't have a chance, so we want all the expiring contracts that we can get and accumulate as many draft picks as possible, right? Even the Lakers did that to a certain extent when they traded some bench players for 3 second-round picks, which they're just going to go ahead and use as trade collateral in the future for other players or whatever the case may be.
Absolutely.
It was interesting, and the Luka Kyrie thing. I don't know how that's going to work out because Luka seems to be pretty ball dominant.
Mm-hmm.
And with Kyrie, I mean, he's a great shooter, but also he's the guy who's initiating some of that offense. I don't know how that plays out. But we'll see, right? We're going to see how that ends up, and I have a feeling that may blow up in the Mavericks face.
Well, there has been a single instance where it didn't blow up for a Kyrie experience, and even then it blew up like literally right after. So he's just so talented, man. He's just so talented that you'll put up with it because he's so good.
Right, which is a larger commentary maybe on just our inclination to give people chance after chance after chance to redeem themselves because they're talented, as opposed to their track record of proving who they are.
Well, I mean, the inverse of that is the pitcher Trevor Bauer. He's apparently nobody's interested in him, which I don't understand, but
yeah, that is interesting, right? Because the court dismissed his charges.
Yep.
And the Dodgers immediately just they got together and said, we're releasing you. And he's, for all intents and purposes, to your point, kind of blackballed right now. I haven't heard anybody say anything of interest in signing him. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but before this all went down, he was like the most dominant pitcher.
He's a top 5, top 7. Yeah. At worst, top 7. At his best, he's probably top 3.
Wow.
Yeah. Posted a sub-2 ERA with Cincinnati, won the Cy Young Award, went to the Dodgers, was at the top of the league. You have some questions maybe about his decision-making as a person, but he didn't face criminal or civil charges. The league handed him a suspension that was pretty unprecedented. He fought it from day one, and an arbiter overturned it and basically said the league is basically suspending him for nothing. He says that on Thursday, the Thursday before he was cut on a Friday. He says that the Dodgers told him that he was going to be part of their rotation. And then Friday morning they cut him. So I don't know.
It's almost like outside influence said, hey, you have to release him, right? Even though this may be somewhat conspiratorial. But if some outside influence were to say, I know that the arbiter overturned the suspension, but we want you to release them. We want you to release them, and then we're going to tell all the teams that, we're going to let him sit out the season right?
Oh,
In
did
terms
you
of
just
no
open the
interest.
door to the dome?
Yeah, I creaked it open. I was
Oh,
wondering if anybody was
the
home.
the light is peeking through, and we're here. We're glad to have you. That is an interesting take. So basically, the league is saying, "Hey, this isn't happening, and you go ahead and sign him if you want. We're going to make your whole life very difficult," which Major League Baseball certainly could do for any of these organizations. Hmm.
I mean, the baseball has its own kangaroo court.
Yes,
So
it does.
what's to say they go to the Dodgers and go, we want you to release him. We don't agree with the arbiter's decision to end his suspension, and we plan on making him, for lack of a better term, undesirable for a year.
He's undesirable number one.
Yes. I don't know. I mean, stranger things have happened, right?
I hadn't even really thought about it that way, and I always think about things that way. That's a really interesting point because I'm going to be honest with you. If I owned a team, I'm signing him, I would have no problem sitting at the press conference and saying, "Look, show me his criminal or civil charges that he was convicted of, and I will release him." But he didn't commit a crime. Legally, he was determined to have not committed a crime. So we can't. What are we punishing him for? That's an interest. Well, we're not really punishing him. He's still getting every penny the Dodgers owed him. But yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Were there fights, Aaron, on Saturday or?
Yeah. UFC 284. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't
Was
know
it good?
It was pretty good.
Okay.
There
Look
were
at
some
this
good
picture.
fights.
I like that picture.
This is how Islam looked after all of his fights.
Let's build to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, bottom of the card, we already kind of talked about
Okay.
the first cards. We called Loma. We saw that coming. Good for Loma.
I
Fun
don't think we
fight.
saw her getting a submission, right? The Muay
Mm,
Thai specialist getting a submission. She was fucking pumped for that, by the way.
yeah, she was. She was super
Rightly so.
stoked. I enjoyed that enthusiasm. At least didn't look bad by any means, but she didn't listen to her coach in the corner in between
No.
rounds. And
No, there was the second half of the first round, she looked very
yeah.
dominant. She controlled the position.
Hmm.
And Luma obviously has a huge gaping like skill set on the ground in terms of defense.
Hmm.
But everything starts on the feet, and she went right after it. And
Yep,
I was stoked that she got the win.
definitely. That was the first club and sub of the night, actually, which is a theme that that really comes through later on. Uh, After that, Jack Jenkins put on a show against Don Shanis. That was a good one that could have been stopped a little earlier, frankly. Don Shanis was very
Well, wasn't
tough.
it a decision?
It
Yeah, it was a
was.
decision.
Yeah, it could have been stopped at any point,
Hmm.
right? But uh, Don Shanis reminded me a lot of Chris Butinho's fighting style, which is get punched in the face until you lose. And then,
Also Homer Simpson's fighting style, just to absorb punishment until
He
the other
actually
person tires
landed
himself.
more strikes.
it was not, it
Don Shanis did.
wasn't pretty. They weren't good strikes.
Not more significant strikes though by a wide margin. Interesting.
No. Uh, Jamie Malaki, he did his thing
Yep.
against Francisco Prado.
Do you know that? I mean, they said it on the broadcast, but Francisco Prado is the second youngest fighter in the UFC roster.
Yes.
He's 20 years old from Argentina, and he looked aggressive. But Jamie Malarkey's overall skill set, I mean, just overwhelmed him.
It did.
Um,
I felt bad
but
for Prado. He Ponzinibbio and he, of course, are close because of their Argentinian heritage. And Ponzinibbio was commentating, doing commentary work for this. And Prado, I guess, was a bit disappointed that he didn't get to live up to that expectation.
yeah, I mean, it's a really good experience for him. He has some work to do, obviously, on the ground and take down defense, but on the feet, he was very dangerous.
Yeah. And Dom, uh, he saw your tattoos once and then tried to get somebody who's not nearly as talented as your tattoo artist to do his sleeve and the same as yours.
Hmm.
But yours is a million times better. That was who we were commenting about in the
Yeah.
chat.
His don't look too bad.
No, they're not terrible, but yours are, Da Vinci compared.
That's nice of you to say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
chef's kiss.
Clayton Rodriguez is violent.
Yes, he
Dude.
is.
You know what's funny? I'll admit, I did not realize that this was going to be at flyweight. So when I realized that these were two little dudes, I was, I mean, one, I guess I was just a little bit taken aback. But when you said, "Hey, Clayton is violent," he sure as hell was. He
Yeah.
sure as hell was.
Great win. And it was brutal. I look forward to seeing what he does in flyweight as he
Should he get a,
climbs.
a ranked opponent next?
I don't know. Maybe we'll do a
I
climb the
don't
ladder
know
with
much.
him
Yeah, that'd be fun. I
at
don't know
some
much
point.
about him, to be
I gotta see
honest.
him fight for more than a minute. I think
Yeah,
that's
that's
fair.
fair.
Used me. And then Josh Kulabau
Looked very
surprised.
good.
He surprised the shit out of me when he beat Melsick. I thought
Hmm.
Melsick would have this wrapped. He's just so composed, but no, just no.
No, not
Josh
gonna.
came to bang, and he that was a slick sub too. Another club and sub. Hmm.
It was a night of rear naked chokes.
Was Tyson Pedro losing to Modestas Bukauskas the biggest surprise of the night for you? It was for
No,
me.
it was not the biggest surprise of the night for me.
That was
But I'm kind of cheating with my answer to that. So
this was the biggest surprise for me. This was like I thought Tyson would have a lot more than he had, and I made the mistake of not expecting more from Modestas based on his victories outside of the UFC since he left. But he looked like a very good prospect for light heavyweight. I won't say contender, but to me, he definitely outshined Tyson Pedro, and he's a known name in the light heavyweight division without a number. And like Modestus now is like, okay, I think he should be fighting somebody in the top 15 because he's not going to earn a name. Like he's not. He's not charismatic or handsome or super tattooed up like Tyson over here. So that they've got to put him up the rankings if they want to do anything with him because he's not going to be selling them with his face and his name. You know what I mean?
hmm.
Maybe that's rude,
He
but
spoke. He spoke very well.
I think
Uh,
they're going to give Tyson a can next, and they're going to give Modestus a challenge.
I think Tyson needs to work on his cardio. He was
Yeah, he does.
gassed after the first round. It
After
was
the first
surprising.
round. First round. Bullshit. Anyway, so Tyson then will have to worry about his tank for his next bout. What did you think about the Jimmy Crute Alonzo Menafield draw?
I think Alonzo should have finished it in the second round,
Yeah, I do too.
which was unfortunate that he just didn't go for it
Even the
because,
first.
yeah, the first when he turned the table, I mean, he has so much power, and once he got back onto the feet, I mean, you could see that he was an imminent threat to end the fight at any point in time. The fucking point deduction. While I agree fence grabs are terrible and it can really change the outcome of those interactions, especially when they're grappling up against the fence. You do not see a point deduction on the very first offense that often. And
Mm-mm.
I don't know how I feel about it. Like if it was consistently done that way, then I would be fine. But just the fact that it's inconsistent seemed questionable.
Yeah. Did that have anything to do with which fight was it? Which fight was it that had the really bad nut shot?
Wasn't that Kulabao?
I think it was Kulabau. I think he got
Yeah, because
kicked
he
in
had
the nuts.
the
Spinning heel kick right to
spinning
the
heel
nuts.
kick right to
Ugh.
the nards.
Yeah, and I know that was unintentional, of course, but I remember I think it was Jason Herzog, I think was the ref for that one.
And he took
And
the point.
he didn't take it, but he told him that was an accident. The next one is not an accident. The next one is a point no matter what. Because I think he was getting really close.
Hmm.
And I think Melsick had a thing in the past with groin shots too. So if a ref gives you a bunch of warnings, like maybe he warned Alonzo or whatever in the back, like you grab the fence all the fucking time. You're not doing it in my fight. And if you do it once, I'm taking a point, then it's like fine, cool. I'm
Hmm.
I'm, I'm cool with that.
Well, they say that they talked about all these things before the fight
Mhm.
backstage. So I don't know, maybe a little bit more commentary around that. Like, hey, all the fighters they go through all this before the fight backstage, so that
Yeah.
when you see them on the first offense, and that's my point, right? If they were consistent about it the first time, that's a point deduction. It would go away
Yeah.
Yeah.
because that Alonzo Menafield and Jimmy Cruder are making their show bonus, and that's it because of a
hmm
point deduction, right? One person's not making their win, but they're not getting their win bonus because of that.
Yeah. Broke the rule. I like what your point though is I agree. I totally agree with that. Just that it has to be consistent because then you
Yeah,
expect it. You know what's consistent? Slap fight league. The rules in every match in Power Slap. That
Have you
that
still been
is
watching?
yes.
Okay.
And it's getting better.
Is it?
Yeah,
they so
The ratings aren't getting better.
that
do
doesn't
you do
surprise
you
me.
do either of you remember the guy that was on the Ultimate Fighter on the heavyweight season with Kamaro's brother, the Mitchell Sipe guy?
That was
I
in
don't
Slap Fight?
Yeah, and he got kicked out of the house because
Oh yeah, he did.
he got too drunk, right?
Yep.
And was causing problems. Like that's the thing is that the slap fight, the house situation is early tough seasons where they were
Yeah.
not disciplined like we talked about in the past,
Yeah.
where there's no excitement because what they're doing is they're eating chicken with no seasoning,
Yeah.
right? And some asparagus.
Yeah.
And on this season, the
No.
slap fight, they're probably going through multiple bottles of alcohol a night,
Yeah.
and then they're
Are they
fucking
smoking any drugs?
No, they're doing the wise corporate thing and they're drinking Howlerhead.
yeah, they're
Oh,
drinking a
sick.
shitload of Howlerhead.
It's a half the show is a
I have a
commercial for
I
why
have
you
a
shouldn't drink Howlerhead.
I have a bottle of Howlerhead right back here. Big fan.
Yeah. It's going.
Okay.
Anyway, but there is a kid on it that he is a heavyweight, but he's the smallest heavyweight. He's crossed classes to fight at heavyweight,
He's
and
gonna be the champ.
he's gonna be yeah, he will be.
Oh, that's so dumb.
And he's finished everyone at the top so far. Be
Good for
exciting.
him.
Yeah. Um, he could knock out Justin Tafa.
No, he couldn't. Maybe in slapping, but not in a fight.
Yeah. What did you think of his KO of Parker Porter?
I mean,
Parker
one of them
Porter
was getting it, right?
sucks.
But
Yeah.
but Porter sucks. He's not a good fighter.
He's not a
Porker.
good fighter.
Porker. Porker Porter.
Porker.
Parker Porker or Porker Porter. It works both ways.
Yeah.
In a heavyweight bout, when you come in that type of open stance, like he was just saying, "Please knock me out," and Justin Tafa obliged him.
Justin Tafa comes to bang, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
Mark Hunt's younger brother.
Yeah,
He took out
that's right.
Parker
Yep.
Porter.
and
Confirmed.
Tyson,
They are siblings.
he's Tyson Pedro's uncle. Uh,
And he's definitely related to Tai Tuivasa.
yes, they're second cousins. One's removed, but also cousins because That's how they roll. Anyway, I don't know what I'm just saying.
I am so impressed, and I mean this completely. The sort of Samoan body style, which is like equal parts body fat and muscle and like fast twitch muscle fiber, is I'm a fan. Like Maui from Moana.
Doesn't who calls it? What is it? It's called Fat Boy Strength, but like
something like that. Yeah.
Is it in Superbad? Is maybe something like that? Anyway, it's
I don't
just
remember that from Superbad.
Yeah, that's just what it is. It's that thing. Jack Dela, Madalena.
But they're like expert surfers at that size too. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
It's because they used something that would have been wide enough to fit Jack on it too. Never mind.
Oh,
we can't
okay.
go into the Titanic 25-year anniversary while we're here. Okay, never mind.
It's only been 25 years?
I challenge that. I think it's been longer.
I also think it's been longer.
It's 25.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
When did that movie come out?
1997.
Oh, yeah, look at that. That's 26, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Good call, Aaron.
I know my shit sometimes. Like I knew Jack Dela was gonna win.
You were pulling for Randy Brown, though.
Me?
Yeah.
Rude boy?
Rude boy.
Was I?
I think you were.
If I was, it was a momentary lapse in judgment. Because I love Jack Dela Madalena. I think he's great.
We all talked about Randy Brown. I think he almost made it to the parlay, which didn't win at all, so it doesn't really matter. But
yeah.
That's weird. I have Jack written down.
Okay.
Yeah. I thought he looked awesome. I mean, he waits, he finds his shot, and then he takes it and he gets it. And that's what happens. That's what happens every time.
And he was the hometown hero, right? Because he's from Western Australia. So it was it was fun. He was far too, looking at the odds, he was far too big of a favorite though. Like Randy Brown, yes, he fights the way he fights, and that is dangerous against Jack Dela, but I didn't think he was actually going to catch him that, like how he catches people, but he did. Hey, good for him.
Is he ranked? No, he's not. I almost wonder if he should get a name or a number next, I should say.
I'm thinking he should get top 15.
Yeah.
At welterweight, right? From 10 to 15, he's definitely not fighting Shavkat. He's not fighting George.
No. He's not fighting Shavkat.
Not Michael Chiesa. I could see him fighting the Leech, Li Jingliang.
Yeah.
Or Michelle Tejeda.
Li Jingliang's fighting Michael Chiesa next.
Oh, he is?
Yeah, Michelle Tejeda is fighting. Man, it's exciting too.
He is fighting. There's nobody on the UFC's website right now.
Maybe I'm crazy. I don't remember. But yeah, those would be good.
A fight against Vicente Luque would be an absolute barn burner.
Ooh,
that would be amazing.
Yeah, actually, Vicente and Jack Dela would be a fun one.
We like Vicente Luque on this show.
We do. This is the 800th time that he has not come on the show.
It's the longest streak.
We have
tied for.
We have a interim.
Your favorite
featherweight title holder who I assume will defend that interim title 5 times.
So you said I was inside your head with this one.
Yeah. Yep.
Do tell.
How so? Well,
don't respond to my open-ended statements with open-ended statements.
When did I say
don't put short sleeve shirts over long sleeve shirts over short sleeve shirts? I said I don't know if Yair Rodriguez is worse than I thought or if Josh Emmett is better than I thought. That was what I left that fight thinking. Like one of them is worse or one of them is better than I thought. It's not both, and I don't really know which one it is. I'm inclined to think Yair Rodriguez is just not as good as I thought, because the advanced stats really heavily favor Yair. I know Josh Emmett had a moment or two, but 98 to 35 total strikes, 62 to 22 significant. Obviously, he submitted him. Which I don't think anyone saw coming. I don't know what the prop on that was, but
yeah, that was pretty small. You know, the strikes of this fight, the total strikes, they tell the story of Josh Emmett's fights too. Like he's a pouncer, you know, he waits for his moment and then he jumps on you, and that's the end. Just like Jack Della, but Jack Della Maddalena has far better combos. Josh Emmett does great body work and knows when to go up top, but it just never presented itself. It wasn't going. Watching it, it never seemed like that was ever going to happen. It never looked like Yair was ever going to let Josh do the thing that he does, and that was going to win Yair the fight no matter what. I'm glad that it ended how it did, because it was just going to be Josh gassing and chasing Yair around the rest of the fight.
Okay.
Unless Yair landed something, because he was going to. Those body kicks were destroying Josh Emmett by the end of the first round. And he was going to go down from one of those, if nothing else. And he was doing that to set up a head kick, which he did throw at the end of the first round, but it was frankly kind of expected in that moment. He really kind of set it up too well that Josh was just ready. But beautiful sub. Ryan,
I don't disagree with you. Ryan, you have a penchant for like effectively summing up fights like this. What do you think?
I think going into the fight, I thought that Yair was the far more effective striker. I think I underestimated Josh Emmett's ability to change the course of the fight with his power. But just the way that he fights in just kind of stalking people down, Yair's ability to laterally move, and Aaron's right about Yair's kicks. It's his most effective weapon, and its ability to differentiate the strikes, whether it's to that liver kick in the first round, almost into the fight. Josh Emmett had a fantastic poker face.
I feel like those hurt me when I'm watching them.
His ability to stay on his feet and regroup was impressive. I would say that his ability to change that first round as well by landing that overhand right, and then taking to the ground is also equally impressive. But Yair was far better.
Yeah, just far
better. I am somewhat surprised that it ended the way that it did by him getting a triangle choke.
Yeah.
Considering in the first round that Josh Emmett kind of dominated him in the final 2 minutes after he got that takedown. But even with that being said, I don't think Yair has anything for Volkanovski.
No, nothing. I can't see anything. Nope.
So I'm glad you said that. There are two names in this division that matter at this point. And I think you both know what they are.
Alexander Volkanovski and Umar Nurmagomedov.
No,
wait, he's a bantamweight. Other featherweights.
There's one other name that matters.
Ilia Topuria.
It's Ilia Topuria.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, it's just give me those two guys 3 times. Volkanovski will beat him 3 times. That's really neither here nor there. I'm all done with Max Holloway. I don't care about Yair Rodriguez or Brian Ortega. I'll put Arnold Allen in there, maybe.
Arnold Allen's in there, but like, if he goes out there and bangs like he bangs, Alex Volkanovski will absorb and return.
That is
10
correct.
times
And
over.
then maybe like a sprinkling of Bryce Mitchell, but
yeah, fair.
the two names are Ilya Topuria and Alexander Volkanovski.
Yeah. Alexander Volkanovski wins the I think you're pretty neat, but I respect your distance award for
That's
the
right.
first time in a year.
Mm-hmm.
Cause it's I mean, he did not win the fight. He did
You don't
not
think
win.
so?
He didn't win the fight on the judges' scorecards.
That is correct.
Uh, you know, even when he was taken down and being controlled, he was still landing.
And doing a really good job hand fighting.
He was never he never seemed to be in danger to me. And Volkanovski was in danger when they were on their feet. Or sorry, Islam was in danger when they were on their feet.
Yeah.
Even though he did catch Volkanovski once or twice,
Mm-hmm.
he shrugged it off and said, "Fuck yeah, let's go." You know? I mean, the consensus with the mixed martial moral majority is that Volkanovski's still fucking pound for pound.
I don't see how they could take his name off that right now.
The UFC already said Islam's the new pound for pound number one. They haven't updated the site, but they've said he is.
I hate that. I hate that so much.
And yeah. But the first round, was it even the fourth round and the fifth round? Look at that. Alexander Volkanovski, 52 strikes to 8. The fourth round, like, and Islam gassed.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, if that fight goes another round, Alexander Volkanovski wins the fight. And I think he finishes the fight. If only they were 6 rounds.
Okay, so Ryan, you have Makhachev 3-2.
Yes.
Which 3 rounds are you giving him?
1, 3, and 4.
Okay, so in round 1, he had 4 more strikes landed and 1 takedown, but less significant strikes. Round 3, he had 1 more total strike, 1 takedown, 2 more significant strikes. Round 4, he got outstruck badly, 49-19, and 6-4 significant. He did have a takedown in that round. Round 5 is not close. Round 2 to me is closer. The significant strikes and total strikes are even. And plus Makhachev got a takedown.
If you look at the strikes,
round 4
strike calculation in round 4, you know, what's the percentage of the strikes where he's just going like this behind his head?
No, and that's fair. I get that. But
Islam reacted.
Are we talking damage? Like, what's the... if we're talking about damage done, I mean...
this round is the whole rub for me. It's because...
round 4?
Yeah. And that's the round that the judges gave to Islam, just like Ryan did.
Well, one of the judges had it like 49-46, which is absurd.
Yeah, one judge had it 4 rounds to 1, which would mean that they gave Islam 1, 2, 3, and 4.
There's always an Adelaide bird.
Yeah. And round 4, though, it's just like you were talking about. Islam was on Volkanovski's back most of the round. He was controlling Volkanovski, but Volkanovski was forcing Islam to adjust that whole time.
How many guys, and maybe this is not a fair way to judge it, how many guys get Islam Makhachev on their back and live to talk about it? And
not only live to talk about it, but get Islam to move off of his back because it wasn't fucking working. And Volk was punching him in the face. Like, it's great that he was back there, but he's the one taking damage the whole time. He's the one not gaining position. Like, he wasn't even attempting subs. He was attempting to get into a sub attempt. Yeah. And he wasn't even getting there.
Right.
Like, to me, Volk stopped him and inflicted damage in round 4. And that should have won him the round based on how they've been scoring fights lately. But, like, I still get it, though. I see how Islam won that fight. I do see how he won because he was still in a dominant position according to every fucking major martial art on the
Yeah.
planet.
Yeah. Whereas
And
I guess the comparison would be Piotr Jan, who was really not ever in a dominant position with Sean O'Malley.
yeah. And he wasn't hitting him back. Piotr Jan was trying to escape. He wasn't doing any damage. He wasn't being offensive while Aljo was on his back. Volkanovski was still being offensive while he was defending.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and that speaks to him as a fighter volumes. Like, Islam's strategy got stuffed and he hit a wall and rode to victory on that. Like, he wasn't gonna get any further. I would love to see a rematch in this fight,
See,
and I do think there would be a finish, but I don't necessarily
I'm
think it would be Alex.
no, I actually think if they fought again, Islam kind of
I think he would have a vendetta, and it
sort of
would
has his
be.
way with him.
I do too.
It's hard for me in my mind not to adjust what I think of the fight because Volkanovski typically fights 10 pounds lighter. And most people think Islam should actually fight at 170.
He looks
But
so
they
big.
fought it. They both weighed in at 155. Think too, though, and we talked about this about what Makhachev did to Charles Oliveira and what Charles Oliveira was doing to everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And then Volkanovski
Yeah.
goes in there, and it's not crazy to say he beat him. It's not crazy to say he didn't, but it's not crazy to say he did. I don't think either of them really lost the fight, if that makes sense.
Mm-mm.
I think Volkanovski still. I don't understand how you could take him off the pound for pound number one. That doesn't make any sense
Yeah.
in the world to me.
No.
I really have no interest in seeing it again because I don't think a rematch would be all that competitive.
It may not be.
I don't know. It was interesting. I don't know where the champ thing is. So what we've seen, Amanda got him back.
Yeah.
There's not really that many guys or girls that can do it.
Goes
It's like
to show how hard it
maybe
is.
Alex Pajeda.
Yeah. Did and hey, and this also speaks to what we were saying when we were making picks on this fight, which we were saying the later this goes, the better for Alex.
Well, that turned out
And
not to be the case.
we were 100% spot on that for sure. And that picture that we just brought up, which folks can search for online, there's a picture floating around online of Islam after all of his fights, and he looks drastically different after the fight with Alex.
Well,
Uh,
I mean, round 5 was the most one-sided of all the rounds in that fight.
mhm.
Very definitive.
Yeah.
And all
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, I would love to see a little bit more clarity on the situation that happened in round 4, where he does have his back, but he's not really doing anything with it because Volkanovski is really neutralizing him to a certain extent. How long does that go on before the referee goes, okay, we're in this stalemate. Let's go back to the feet. And
Yeah.
then, because there's some commentary going on that Islam took round 4 to kind of regroup because he was gassed.
Mhm.
And I think he really kind of rode that out in the position.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's some, not that it's going to really definitively change wholesale on like how those fights get refereed.
Mhm.
But it is interesting to think about at a stalemate, 30 seconds, 45 seconds, whatever the time frame would be, that the ref would go, okay, stop, get them back to their feet, where, Islam had some success, but Volkanovski was really, as the fight wore on, far, more and more successful. How that would have translated to round 4 getting scored, and then really just compounds what ended up happening in round 5.
Who is the better fighter?
Alexander Volkanovski.
Ryan.
It depends.
On what?
on what they ate.
A lot of variables. I mean,
Okay.
I think Alexander Volkanovski, at the end result of this, proved that he's a far more well-rounded fighter than Islam is at this point in time.
Yes. It's interesting because that there's that line in Iron Man 2 where Whiplash Anton Vanko says, like, if you can make God bleed, there'll be blood in the water and the sharks will come. I think that's kind of what we saw. I think we saw a smaller guy go in there and, again, really give him everything he could handle.
Yeah. Put it on him. And now I think if you're in the lightweight division, maybe you're thinking, okay, there is a path to victory. I just don't know which guys in lightweight that are in the top 10 are even nearly the striker that Volk is. Yeah. I think about Volk.
Grappler.
If Volk.
Yeah, well, I mean, Oliveira and Poirier are pretty good on the ground.
Yeah. Well, Volkanovski, though, also has a fearlessness. Like, he used to run at guys that were Islam's size. He used to run at 5 of them at the same time. Playing
at
rugby.
All. No fear at all. Against someone who, for all intents and purposes, is a literal machine. Right? Like,
yeah.
There's something to be said for that. I don't think Volkanovski's stock dropped at all. I think it only went up, and really interested to see kind of where his career goes from here. I think he's just going to fucking annihilate people at featherweight for a little bit.
Yeah, I think so too.
It makes me think someone like Aljamain Sterling has no chance against him.
Fair. Oh yeah, definitely not.
It would likely get to a point where he continues to dominate almost everyone at featherweight to where somebody further back on the ranks, right? Like Ilia Topuria gets a shot, or, they go the route of Volk is 35 and they want him to be part of just really big fights. The thing that sticks in my head is Cejudo coming back because he said he's wanted to fight Volkanovski. Let's see how he does at 135 and then potentially make another super fight where he's part of that. And I honestly think that Volkanovski just destroys him.
Oh, I think he knocks his block off. I don't think it's even a little bit competitive, to be honest.
No, I think that's I want to watch that, but it's trash TV. I want to watch it because I know what's happening.
It's the damage thing is weird though, because we talked a couple weeks ago. If you look at the Ciryl Gane, Francis Ngannou stats with the lens of damage done, it seems pretty clear that Ciryl Gane actually won that fight. You want to talk about holding someone down and doing nothing with it?
Yeah.
Francis did nothing with it. Francis, in fact, almost got submitted multiple times. So I don't know. I'm with you. I would like to see some clarity on how that is the significance of ground control time versus like in a position of like a what am I looking for? Like a not controlling position, but you're in a like a dominant position where you're, you know what I mean?
Or the opponent is vulnerable to either damage or submission attempts.
Yes.
The problem is if you don't then attempt submissions, that's where the crux of the problem is. Where do you then determine this is now a stalemate because the person in the dominant position is not trying to advance or attempt to submit his opponent, and the person defending has prevented all advances, right, or attempts to submit in fear of losing that dominant position. Do we then go, okay, break, stand up, and then re-engage at distance?
Right.
Yeah. It was fun. It was a fun card, gentlemen. I enjoyed the shit out of UFC 284. And we don't have to wait much longer for more UFC fights.
No, a few weeks in a row, right?
Yes.
And now it's time for the Pretty Neat Podcast picks.
this coming weekend, we have Jessica Andrade versus Erin Blanchfield. Late replacement, right? But Jessica Andrade stepping in, and this is gonna be that bolster for Erin we were talking about. We were saying that she could be up at the top by the end of this year with the belt. And we talked about maybe not at the end of this year, but contender for the belt at the end of this year.
Well,
Now, I think if she
a
beats
win here
Jessica,
certainly puts her in that stratosphere.
if she beats Jessica, we're gonna have a flyweight championship fight with Erin Blanchfield and on the red corner for that. Um, but man, I think that is actually probably the most compelling fight of the whole evening for me.
So, what was the main event here supposed to be?
I think it was Tyler Santos versus
Mhm.
Erin Blanchfield.
That's right.
Yep.
What happened to her?
Most likely injury, I would assume.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, Tyler Santos would have still been a big victory for Erin Blanchfield, but I think
This is just a bigger step up in
Andrade is a
competition.
bigger one. Yeah.
Yeah.
The rest of the cards, so Zach Palga at light heavyweight, wasn't he just on the Ultimate Fighter?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Against a guy named Jordan Wright, Josh Parisian and Jamal Pogues, William Knight and Marcin Prachnio, Jim Miller.
He's fighting Alexander the Great Hernandez.
There's like a bunch of fights on here. OSP is like the fourth fight of the night, which is weird. Bunch of big guys, welterweights, lightweights. Benoit Saint Denis, not from France, is coming back.
No, he's from Red Dead Redemption 2.
That's right. It seems like they want a card full of kind of entertaining knockouts.
Yeah, there's actually,
and I feel like we're going to get some of them.
I think you're absolutely right. I think that there's a lot of fights in here that are not supposed to be finished. They're not supposed to go to decision.
It's a weird card.
It is. And I actually really look forward to this Jim Miller fight because I want to see Alex Hernandez beat a veteran. I rooted against him wholeheartedly when he fought Donald Cerrone because he was such an arrogant little shit who didn't respect anybody from the WEC days. And Donald Cerrone beat the shit out of him. And I thoroughly enjoyed that. Now I think Alex has done some time to soul search and develop. And I think that now he will likely have a little bit more respect for somebody who's been in the fucking game literally longer than everyone else in the organization. And I want to see him come out victorious in this one. I like Jim Miller. I do believe Jim Miller will make it to fight on UFC 300, and he will have fought on 100, 200, and 300. I think he will achieve that.
Good Lord.
I don't know I don't know if he will be the winner going into that, though. I really think Alex might have this one.
He's on a 3-fight win streak.
Yeah. I really think
Miller?
Yeah.
Well,
Jim Miller too.
Alex Hernandez, we saw him in December. He lost by KO to Billy Q. Then he lost to Hanato Moicano. So he's lost 2 in a row, and his last win was in 2021, where he beat somebody by KO in round 1.
If he loses,
is he going up in weight here? This says lightweight, but they've got Jim Miller listed at 170.
I think Jim Miller's been going back and forth,
but they've also got Hernandez listed at 145. So what the fuck?
Yeah, I think this is the agreed upon weight. I think this is an agreed upon weight. Neither 55? Of them are rankings guys. I mean, if Alex Hernandez loses, he'll go to PFL and make more money. And if he wins, then he'll continue his dream.
Okay.
Of being a champion, I guess. But it'll be a fun card. Start at 3 p.m. for me, which is cool. I like the earlier starts. And that Ovince St. Preux versus Felipe Lins is actually Felipe. I don't think he was Ultimate Fighter, but I recognize him from his previous bout, I think. Another good fighter. I think that'll be fun. Anything with Ovens is either very violent or he gasses and then it's boring.
Okay.
Kind of like old Rumble fights.
We have some debuts on this card. Yeah, I don't know. Whatever.
It's a good one. It's a
Josh
good one.
Parisian and Jamal Pogues.
His hair.
I wonder the over under on this must be 9 seconds. I mean,
I refuse to watch any of Parisian's fight. If he's not French.
okay, that makes sense.
I'm sticking to my guns on that.
Now, Zach Pauga, has he fought outside of the Contender Series? No, in fact he lost to Kamaru's brother. Okay.
Mm-hmm. I actually thought he was gonna win too. Yeah.
But this is at light heavyweight, it says.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. Gentlemen,
We'll be
tired.
watching.
I'm tired. Have a nap, you might say.
Yeah, have a nap.
Okay.
What do we go out on? I mean, I would just Alex Volkanovski. Yeah, 2024 and beyond. What?
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Hey, you know why I love MMA so much? It's pretty neat. That is 100% true, but it's also because it brings us together. You know what? Violence really does bring people together.